class, anybody.
Okay, it's going live now.
You probably, I'm sure you can screen share. You should be able to.
Yeah, gone live now. It's.
Okay, yeah. Now that's working.
Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to jump upstairs. It's working now.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jashoda Nandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai ki Jai, Shri Radha Girdhari Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Braj Bhumi Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga ki Jai. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Mahavishnu Goswamiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sundavadi Pasachate Sarine. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to the online program of ISKCON Oakland in the Srimad Bhagavatam class today. I'm sorry, today we have a bit of technical difficulties. We're finally up and on air, but I think you cannot see me. I cannot see you, but I can see the messages which comes on the chat. Hopefully you can hear my voice. I can see some devotees writing this. Okay, hopefully you can hear my voice. If you can't, let me know. At least with this, we can start our discussion and start with our program. Jai. So today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter number 30, and verse number 8. I'll read the verse first. If you have got the verse in front of you, if you can please repeat after me. Akshiptat manendriyah strinam asitam cha mayaya raho rachitaya lapai shishunam kala bhashinam akshiptat manendriyah strinam asatinam cha mayaya Raho rachitaya palaihi Shishunam kalabhashinam Akshiptat mendriyah strinam Asitam cha mayaya Raho rachitaya lapaihi Shishunam kalabhashinam. Jai. Word to word synonyms, translations and purports by Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Akshipta, charmed. Atma, heart. Indriya, his senses. Strinam, of the women. Asitanam, false. Cha, and. Mayaya, by Maya. Rahaha, in a solitary place. Rachitaya, displayed. Alapaihi, by the talking. Shishunam, of the children. Kalabhashinam, with sweet words. So, charmed heart, his senses of women, false, and by Maya, in a solitary place, displayed by the talking of the children with sweet words. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The Kabir translation. He gives heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with her, and he is enchanted by the sweet words of small children. Purport. Family life within the kingdom of illusory energy Maya is just like a prison for the living entity, eternal living entity. In prison, a prisoner is shackled by iron chains and iron bars. Similarly, a conditioned soul is shackled by the charming beauty of a woman, by her solitary embraces and talks of so-called love, and by the sweet words of his small children. Thus he forgets his real identity. In this verse, the words Strinam, Asatinam indicate that womanly love is just to agitate the mind of men. Actually, in the material world, there is no love, but agitate the mind of. Both the women and the man are interested in their sense gratification. For sense gratification, a woman creates an illusory energy, illusory love, and the man becomes enchanted by such false love and forgets his real identity and real duty. When there are children, as a result of such combination, the next attraction is to the sweet words of the children, the love of the woman at home, and the love of woman at home and the talks of the children make one a secure prisoner. Agitate the mind. And thus he cannot leave his home. Such a person is termed in the Vedic language as Gruhamedhi, which means one whose center of attraction is home. Grihastha refers to one who lives with family, wife and children, but whose real purpose of life is to develop Krishna consciousness. One is therefore advised to become a Grihastha and not a Grihamedhi. The Grihastha's concern is to get out of the family life created by illusion and enter into real family life with Krishna. Whereas the Grihamedhi's business is to repeatedly chain himself to so-called family life in one life after another and perpetually in the darkness of Maya. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestha Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Goswaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisthiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki Jai Word towards synonyms, translations and purports by Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, Hare Krishna. So today we are having some technical difficulties. I'm streaming straight from the restream video. My video is not very clear, but hopefully you can hear my voice. So we'll start our discussion now. So here the translation again. He gives heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with her. He's enchanted by the sweet words of small children. So this is how in the material world a living being is entangled. Just like he's enchanted by solitary embraces of his wife, even the wife enjoys solitary embraces of the husband. And with this, the samsara chakra of this living being continues. You see, as this is okay in the younger age, where a person is still young, he has got um, his family loving him, his job, his business, income coming through. But this will not last long. In the old age, these same things comes to bite him. Because what happens is this, that as a Griha Medhi who's interested only in sense gratification of himself and his family members, who does not cultivate Krishna consciousness, there's no question of sense control. For this Griha Medhi, life at the old age becomes very stressful and very painful. You see, in the old age, his wife, the same lady who is beautiful, the wife can fit into the son's life, you see, and she can either take care of the grandchildren, helps in cooking, cleaning of the house, whereas the husband, the man of the family, if he is still too attached to the family members who have now grown up sons and daughters, he faces severe difficulty. He faces isolation. And this isolation is a killer, actually, if you go to see. Unless and until one is really trained up in Krishna consciousness, even in controlling one's own senses, this old age comes to bite you. More than the infirmity and the problems of the body, the old age, these mental problems are very severe in old age. And these come from the isolation that one experiences in old age. And that is the reason why, if one has cultivated the knowledge of Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga through the pages of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, he can implement what he has learned in his younger age, in the old age. And then in the isolation, he can be with Krishna. He can be with Srila Prabhupada through his Vani in his books. Without this, it's very hard. Person will be killed. He'll get killed, completely finished. And this life becomes a burden. When he has dedicated his whole life in collecting money, earning money, making sure he has got good facilities, when he grows older, the technology has changed. The ways of earning money has changed. His children would have better facilities to earn money. Just like those who are my parents' age, they do not know how to use computer. They do not know how to use smartphones. Whereas nowadays, everything is done through smartphones and computer. Nothing is done. I mean, physically also things are happening physically, but not so much. One can avoid that. And with this fast movement of so-called technology, the money movement is also very fast. In the old time, I remember I used to go to the bank. My father used to send me to the bank to deposit a check. So we had to fill up the slip, walk to the bank, which takes about half an hour or so. And then we fill up the slip and then wait in the queue and give a deposit. Sorry, there was no queue for depositing. We just give it at a counter. The person would take the slip with the check to the counter, at the counter, and I would go. Again come back walking half an hour back to home. and doing other activities. And at the end of the day, in the evening, all the checks were collected by the cashier in the bank, stamped, entered, and then those checks were then sent to the other bank for production and transferring the money. This would take about 7 to 10 working days. And then the money would come into the bank. And then you could use the money. This is not today. Today, this is not how things work. Today, the money is transferred from one bank account to another bank account straight away, without any wasted of time. And it is this that the money value increases in the sense that the propensity to use money increases. But immediately money is transferred into our account and you can use the money in the next 1 hour or 2 hours. So there's a wastage of money is minimum or nil. And this in turn helps the economy, so-called. So this is how we can see that the ways of earning money, creating wealth has changed completely. Now as the man grows old, his children, his sons, who are taking care of the family, who have their own family now, wife and children, he cannot compete with his young children who are now middle-aged men in technology or earning money, because things have changed totally. This frustrates him even more as a Gruhamedhi. And those who depend upon their family members and the society for their maintenance, in the sense their maintenance as well as for psychological health, they are in a very sorrowful condition. Very sorrowful condition, because it is a fact that since time immemorial, the society were not very favorable to old people. Of course, in the Vedic age, 5,000 years ago, because of the knowledge one has gained in his young age, the sense control, the knowledge of Krishna, Bhakti Yoga, he used to be protected and served very nicely as the guru of the family. But now when there is no question of being a guru of the family, he is neglected. And the current society is actually very cruel to the old people. It's actually very cruel. When I came to the Western world in New Zealand from India, I was shocked to see that older people were left to stay in old age homes, Of course, and they were also made to believe they are enjoying themselves. The older people would play bowling alley, and they would also they find partners, and they would get married at older age. Again married, because their wife or husband have died, and they find love again. This is unfathomable. This is animalistic tendencies. Instead of thinking about death, impending death, they're thinking about, again, the sense gratification. And the society says, oh, such nice person, such nice couple, old couple, so nice, rejuvenating. Because everybody is animal there. Nobody is a decent human being. You see, that is the reason where the Vedic Dharma, Krishna consciousness comes into play. Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness means Varnashram Dharma. The difference between the Sanatana Dharma, the Varnashram Dharma, and that of other religion, including Christianity and Islam and Buddhism, etc., is that in other religion, if you take care of your family, if you are kind to your family, you are considered to be a godly person. Whereas here in this verse, it is said that one is attached to the family, he is a Grumedhi. Yes, one can be attached to the family and still can love Krishna. So he becomes a Grihastha. But a Varnashram system insists that even this grihastha has to be stopped. At the age of 50, the man of the family, the husband of the family, or the guru of the family, has to seek separation from the family and try and be a bit aloof and concentrate upon Krishna consciousness, his bhakti yoga. This is the time, his final time, final 10, 20 years, whatever years he's got to live, to concentrate upon and understand upon the topics of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and how in the previous ages Krishna's devotees had lived life and perfected their lives and going back to Godhead. So unless there is this separation from the family at the age of 50 plus, a grihastha, a person cannot remain even a grihastha throughout his life. Of course, sannyas may not be very acceptable or practical in this age of Kali Yuga. But till the stage of vanaprastha must be there. When the son or the daughter, but when the son accepts the age of 20, 25, one has to voluntarily be a little detached. If he is still attached, then that is, he is finished. There will be all sorts of problems for him, because he cannot fit into the family, as we discussed. The wife can still fit into the family, the husband cannot. And there can never be two lions living in the same cave. One has to voluntarily give up that. Sorry, yes, Prabhuji, Aganta Prabhu. Yeah, there is a problem today, and I cannot. At least my audio is coming. That's why I'm just giving the class with the audio with this. Hope it's okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So now, in the old age, when everything is falling apart, one's body, one's consciousness, one's mind, one's intelligence, nothing is helping. At that time, Krishna will help. If, when our senses were working well and we served the senses of Krishna, then when our senses have stopped, then Krishna will support us with his transcendental senses. You see, this is an example in Ajamil's story also. We know about Ajamil, a Brahmana's son, who by seeing sex taking place between a Shudra man and Shudra woman, a prostitute, becomes agitated, gets married to the prostitute, leaves his family, chaste wife and children. And through all other wrong means maintained that family. He had 10 children with a prostitute wife. But the last son's name he put Narayan. And the child was small. And just like in this particular words, the translation it is mentioned, that he is enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. Similarly, he was enchanted by the sweet words of Narayan, the small child. And at the age of 88 plus, when his death was imminent, when Yamdutas came to capture him, take him away, he was afraid and he called for the name of Narayan, help me. He was actually calling his son. And Vishnudutas came and said, he taken the name of Narayan, he'll come with us. And the famous dialogue happened between Vishnudutas and Yamdutas. And then at the end, the very important instructions given by Yamduta's head, the Yamaraj. And how he gives a definition of dharma. Dharma to sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Dharma, religion, is established by God. No man can establish this God. No demigod can establish a religion. Only God can do so. Dharma to sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So nothing is concocted. And we are so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us this intense treasure of Vedic life. And it can change everyone's life sitting in one place. Just reading and associating with Srila Prabhupada through his books. You see, another very interesting and very important instruction comes in the Katha, or the pastime of King Chitraketu. Where how this sense gratification and attachment to the family, wife, children, kingdom, etc., is a source of distress, and how one can get rid of it. What happened in King Chitraketu is that King Chitraketu had 10 million wives, but he could maintain it. That age was such. Now, it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam that he had the propensity and capacity to beget children, but none of his wives had. Very interesting. Now, he was the ruler of the whole earth. And as a ruler of the whole earth, he had immense wealth, big kingdom. But there was no children, no son to take care of it after his death. Because of which, Chitraketu was lamenting. See, lamentation is a part of material existence. Always lamentation. You have something, you lament. You need something more. If you don't have, you lament. If you want something. This is how it happens. So, in this lamentation, because he was such an important king, a great sage by the name Angira approached him of his own accord. It said he approached him of his own accord. And this sage Angira asked him what is the problem. He said, this is my problem. I don't have a son. I need a son. So Angira gave him knowledge to say, well, you can, if this is destiny, and you cannot fight with your destiny. Why do you want to fight with the destiny? If you don't have a son, you don't have a son. He said, no. I want a son, so that my son can take care of my my property, my wealth, my kingdom after my death. Please help me. I need a son. So he actually forced the sage Angira to manufacture a son for him. Now you cannot go against the will of Lord Krishna. But he forced Lord Angira. And Lord Angira said Angira. And Angira said, okay. He performed a yajna. He said, this is a fruit. And give this fruit to any one of your wife. And she'll beget a child. You eat part of the fruit, other parts let her have it. And he gave this fruit, half fruit, to his oldest wife, queen, the top queen, who he liked very much. And she, after some time, became pregnant and gave birth to a young child. So naturally, there was a big affection, a lot of love showered to the child. King Chitraketu became very fond of his child. So did his wife. So did the whole kingdom. They used to take care of the child like a flower. For everything, they were remembering the child. They were totally engrossed in bringing up the child. And because of that, the other queens became a little jealous. Not a little jealous, quite jealous. You see, even in that age, jealousy does not go away. As those queens became jealous, they could not take it anymore that they were felt neglected because they did not bear children. They were barren in the womb. So they decided that they will kill this child. Just see. This is the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So they actually killed the child one day. They lured him for something. And after luring him, they poisoned the child. And the child died. The queens ran away helter-skelter. in the palace as if nothing happened. When that mother came looking for a child, the queen, she saw the child lifeless, dead. She fainted, seeing that the servants, the maid servants saw this. They started to scream and cry, bewildered, ran to the king. King Chitraketu came running, seeing his wife, the queen, the mother of his son, fainted, unconscious. Seeing the child dead, he lost his life nearly. Started to cry, howling, crying, suffering. Seeing him, even the queens who had killed became a little sorrowful. All the servants, all the kingdom were crying. It is said that the tumultuous sound of crying was so loud in the palace that the whole kingdom could hear the crying and the sorrowful situation. Such pity. The child had died. And now, they were so morose that all the family members, including King Chitraketu and his wife, all the family members in the kingdom, people, they said, we are not going to perform the funeral pyre of the child. They were so attached to the child as a body. They were just lamenting. They nearly died in this situation. As King Chitraketu was very famous, again Sage Angira heard about this and he brought Sage Narad with him. So this time, in this crisis, Sage Angira and Sage Narad, both of them came. You see, what had happened was that when Chitraketu forced out the son from Sage Angira, Angira said, okay, I'm doing this. But he said that this child, the son will be born to you, but he will be a source of great joy to you, and he will also be a source of great sorrow to you. So be prepared for this. And he went away from there. And King Chitraketu was asking, what do you mean by big sorrow? This was the sorrow. And a young boy, tender age, the flowering age of a child, he died. Killed by the other queens, none other than his stepmothers who were jealous of him. So as these two great authorities, Sages Angira and Narad Muni, approached Chitraketu, King Chitraketu saw them with folded hands, welcomed him. His wife, the mother, whose child was lost, she complained to the sages. She said, how come this has happened to us? How can the creator of this world be so cruel? She said. How can he take away this small child who's like a flower? He's not lived his life and we are alive. How can he be so cruel? Better not to give the child. And then this. Sri Angira was also extremely disturbed. Nearing on his death, he said now to the sages, please, I want the child back. Do something. My child has died. I'm finished. My life is finished. Everything is finished. I want my child back. Now see, again he forced the sages. So that's the reason why it's very important to understand from these past times that what we can ask from the sages. We cannot force them to do things against the will of Krishna. We also should have that intelligence to see the difference between our willing and the willing of the Lord. So here, Chitraketu, lamenting, said, my son is lying here, dead body. Why is he not talking to me? We are not going to cremate him. We are also going to die here. Bring him back to life. So Narad Muni smiled. He said, do you think the child bring back to life will help you? He said, yes. He said, okay. And Narad Muni placed his hands on the heart of the body, and the child came back to life. At that point in time, the child said some very important instructions. These are 12 verses which are there in the 6th canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I will read the translations of these verses. Please listen very carefully. And these translations help us to break the shackles of our material existence, which we all have attachment to our own bodies, our own extensions of the bodies in the form of wife, children, etc. Here it is. It's from the first chapter, text number 1 to 12. We'll be starting now. Sri Shukdev Goswami said, my dear King Parikshit, by his mystic power, the great sage Narad brought the dead son into the vision of all the lamenting relatives and then spoke as follows. Shri Narad Muni said, O living entity, all good fortune unto you. Just see your father and mother. All your friends and relatives are overwhelmed with grief because of your passing away. Because you died untimely. The balance of your lifetime will still remains. Therefore, you must re-enter your body and enjoy the remainder of your life, surrounded by your friends and relatives. Accept the royal throne and all the opulences given by your father. By the mystic power of Narad Muni, the living entity re-entered his dead body for a short time and spoke in reply to Narad Muni's request. He said, as the living entity is now saying, according to the results of my fruitive activities, I, the living being, transmigrate from one body to another, sometimes going to the species of demigods, sometimes in the species of lower animals, and sometimes among the vegetables, and sometimes to the human species. Therefore, in which birth were these my father and mother? No one is actually my mother and father. How can I accept these two people as my parents? Just see, he refused to accept. Chizaketu and his wife were lamenting, nearly dead because of his death. He continues, in this material world, which advances like a river that carries away the living entity, all people become friends, relatives, and enemies in due course of time. They also act neutrally, they mediate, they despise one another, and they act in many other relationships. Nonetheless, despite these various transactions, no one is permanently related. Just as gold and other commodities are continually transferred from one place to another, in due course of purchase and sale, so the living entity, as a result of his fruitive activities, wanders throughout the entire universe, being injected into various bodies in different species of life by one kind of father after another. A few living entities are born in the human species, and others are born as animals. Although both are living entities, their relationships are impermanent. An animal may remain in the custody of a human being for some time, and then the same animal may be transferred to the possession of other human beings. As soon as the animal goes away, the former proprietor no longer has a sense of ownership. As long as the animal is in his possession, he certainly has affinity for it. But as soon as animals is sold, the affinity is lost. Even though one living entity becomes connected with another because of a relationship based on bodies that are perishable, the living entity is eternal. Actually, it is the body that is born or lost, not the living entity. One should not accept that the living entity takes birth or dies. The living being actually has no relationship with so-called fathers and mothers. As long as he appears as the son of a certain father and mother, as a result of his past fruitive activities, he has a connection with the body given by that father and mother. Thus, he falsely accepts himself as their son and acts affectionately. After he dies, however, the relationship is finished. Under these circumstances, one should not be falsely involved with jubilation and lamentation. The living entity is eternal and imperishable because he actually has no beginning and no end. He never takes birth or dies. He is the basic principle of all types of bodies. Yet, he does not belong to the bodily category. The living being is so sublime that he is equal in quality to the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, because he is extremely small, he is prone to be illusioned by the external energy, and thus he creates various bodies for himself according to his different desires. For this living entity, no one is dear, nor is anyone unfavorable. He makes no distinction between that which is his own and that which belongs to anyone else. He is one without a second. In other words, he is not affected by friends and enemies, well-wishers or mischief mongers. He is only an observer, a witness of the different qualities of men. The Supreme Lord, Atma, the creator of cause and effect, does not accept the happiness and distress that result from fruitive actions. He is completely independent of having to accept a material body. And because he has no material body, he is always neutral. The living entities, being part and parcel of the Lord, possess his qualities in a minute quantity. Therefore, one should not be affected by lamentation. And the last verse, 12th, Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, when the conditioned soul, the Jiva, in the form of Maharaj Chitraketu's son, had spoken in this way and then left, Chitraketu and the other relatives of the dead son were all astonished. Thus, they cut off the shackles of their affection, which was due to their relationship with him, and gave up their lamentation. After this, King Chitraketu and his relatives, they cremated the child. And thereafter, King Chitraketu fell down at the lotus feet of Narad Muni, accepted him as his guru. Narad Muni then gave him a mantra, worshipping Lord Sankarshan. And that mantra he recited very lovingly and intensely. And within a short period of time, he could meet Lord Sankarshan. And then there are further stories of it, So this is how, from these pastimes of King Chitraketu and Ajamil, you can understand the shackles of material existence which bind us in the form of wife, husband, father, mother, children, relatives, wealth. The happiness which they give us We have to break that shackle now, not at the old age, now. And then we will have the chance to understand Krishna. And when our time will come, whether young or old, we can be alone with Krishna, remain alone with Krishna, and have the association of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. And this association is enough for us to be happy, finish our life in this body. And then when the time is over, if Krishna so desires, then we can remember him at the time of death, as we remember him throughout our lives. And we can go back home, back to Godhead. This information is so important and so easily given by Srila Prabhupada. We are eternally indebted to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this information. I'll repeat the translation again of what we discussed. He gives heart and senses to a woman who falsely charms him with Maya. He enjoys solitary embraces and talking with her, and he's enchanted by the sweet words of the small children. In our discussion, Shackles of Material Existence, we saw that how a Griha Medhi is different from Grihastha. We saw how a Griha Medhi is interested only in making money, taking care of the family. And in all that, when he becomes old, things have changed for him. Even the process of making money has changed. He becomes old, infirm, and his own family neglects him as he grows old. We saw in the Western world, people are living in the old age homes, and like animals, they also are suffering, and even at that stage, they are finding love, getting married at older age. This society is very wrong. We don't belong in this society. It's a very, very wrong society. It's going in the wrong direction very fast. And we see how the Vedic society is different to this society. The Varnashram Dharma is different to Christianity, Islam, and other religions, where they say that only loving of the family is enough. Where the Varnashram Dharma says, yes, that is good. Loving of the family along with loving God is good. Become a Grihastha. But then it says further, at the age of 50 plus, we must leave that association also slowly. And we must be associating then with Krishna. It's a very scientific process to accept Vanaprastha. Sannyas will be difficult in this age, but Vanaprastha, at least at an older age, when we are old, we are not alone. We can be with Krishna. And at a younger age, when we are with Krishna, the older age becomes easier of remembering Krishna. We saw Ajamil's story. Then we saw in detail King Chitraketu, his pastimes, his story. And how then his senses were restored by Narad Muni and the other sage Angira. So with this, I conclude my discussion today. This is what I realized from today's verse. It's a very important verse. With the technical difficulties, you will not be able to see me. At least you're hearing me. If you have anything to say, please, you can write some notes. I'll wait for about 10 seconds. Otherwise, we'll finish our discussion then today. Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.